Hi, my name is Jazz. Welcome back to me talking about movies. Today we're going to be talking about Wonder Woman 1984.
This world is not yet ready for all that you will do. Your time will come, Diana. And everything will be different.
This movie has been highly anticipated, especially since the release date kept getting pushed back due to the current pandemic. Eventually, it was released on Christmas Day, both in theaters and on HBO Max. Luckily, thanks to my brother, I was able to watch it on HBO Max. Thank you, Eric. Did the movie live up to the expectations? Let's discuss.
Wonder Woman 1984 is the follow-up to 2017's Wonder Woman starring Gal Gadot. The movie follows Diana in the year 1984 as she continues to help people while trying not to call attention to herself. She meets Barbara Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig, and they both examine a mysterious stone, without gloves by the way, that claims to grant people's wishes. A shady businessman, Maxwell Lord, played by Pedro Pascal, also has his eyes on the stone.
First, let's talk about things I liked about the movie. I liked the opening scene with young Diana competing with the other Amazons. I thought it was a good way to implement the theme of the movie. I also like any excuse to see the Amazons and their mascara. Apparently the studios wanted Patty Jenkins to cut that scene, but I'm glad they kept it in. And while I agree that the movie is way too long, I feel like there were other areas where they could have cut the fat. I'm a sucker for an 80s nostalgia, which is funny because I wasn't even born in that decade. I'm a 90s baby. So I'm glad the film was set in the 80s. The first scene with Diana set in the titular year is just full of 80s references and 80s fashion. I love seeing the big hair, the leg warmers, especially in the scenes in the mall where it showed all the women jazzercising in the middle of the mall, which according to my mom was apparently a thing, I guess. And I'm glad that it was also took advantage of that decade's campiness. The first scene is just full of 80s campiness. I love the first scene showing Diana doing heroic stuff and just zipping past everyone. It was all very 80s action show, which I loved. I kind of wish the whole movie leaned a little bit more in that direction instead of kind of veering off into its own thing. Now, when Kristen Wiig, I almost called her Kristen Stewart. No. Now, when Kristen Wiig was first cast as Barbara Minerva, I was a little skeptical. I didn't completely write her off, but I was a little weirded out by the casting. However, her performance is probably one of my favorite things about the movie. I already knew that she could play shy and awkward and mousy, but I thought she did a good job showing Barbara's menacing side as she goes deeper and deeper into the dark side. I thought her first scene showing her interacting with her other coworkers was kind of funny, but also a little sad. I kind of got vibes from that Invisible Spy sketch from Black Lady Sketch Show.
He'll never even know I was there. Oh, I know where I know you from. You're my son's kindergarten teacher. You know me from meeting me a minute ago here at the CIA. No.
Barbara's character transformation has been compared a lot to Catwoman's and Poison Ivy's, and for good reason. All three characters start off as shy, neglected office workers who eventually turn into sexy villainesses in different ways. In this movie, Barbara makes a wish on the Dreamstone to become more like Diana and eventually starts developing her powers. However, because the Dreamstone takes away something when you make a wish, it's implied that it takes away her empathy and compassion for other people. So she becomes a worse person. And then eventually, she does become, for those who don't know, her character is meant to be Cheetah. She's a well-known arch nemesis of Wonder Woman in the comics. In this movie, they kind of adapted her story a little bit. However, I will say, if I were to rank all three character transformations, I would probably put Catwoman at the top and Cheetah in the middle. Now, going into things I didn't like, I wish Cheetah had been more of a main villain instead of being reduced to being the villain's dragon. I get that the reason she's supporting Maxwell is for her own gain, but I think it would have been more interesting seeing her as the main villain instead of Maxwell, to be honest. I don't like how the movie shows us that Barbara has gone too far. They do this by having her beat a man nearly to death. However, the man is someone who tried to assault her twice.
No.
And I get that we're supposed to be horrified when she's beating him and leaving him on the street, but to be honest, I don't feel horrified. I get that she used a lot more force than necessary, but it's hard for me to feel horrified by her actions when he kind of deserved it. It would have been a lot more effective if maybe they showed her turning her back on someone who needed her help, or showing her using her powers to her advantage to gain something selfish, like maybe rob a bank or something. I don't know. Maybe it would have been cliche, but it would have helped me feel a little bit more horrified and made me feel, oh yeah, she's turning evil, or oh no, she is evil now. Like, you can't really make someone, even if they're using too much force, it's hard for us to think that they're doing something wrong if they're beating up someone who is trying to assault someone. Especially since we're still in the Me Too era. I'm pretty sure if you had a character try to kill or nearly kill, insert your favorite predator here, most people would probably be rooting for them to kill them or to beat them up more. Now I have to talk about something else I don't like, which is a shame because I like the character, I just don't like the way they brought him back. So in this movie, they bring back Steve Trevor, and how they do this is through the Dream Stone. Diana makes a wish, wishing that Steve would come back because she's still in love with him after 60 years. I guess he really was above average. Her wish is fulfilled, and for some reason they made the choice of having Steve inhabit another man's body. I mean, I kind of get it. It's there to create a moral dilemma about whether or not Steve could stay or should stay. However, it ended up creating a whole other moral issue. After Diana and Steve reunite, they spend the night together, and it's implied that they had intimate relations while Steve was still in another man's body. So I know this is not a situation that most people would probably run into, but having relations with a body that is not conscious or cannot consent is not good. I get that Steve and Diana are in love and they're star-crossed lovers, but it's still not okay for them to use that man's body in that way, because he didn't even know about it. He has no choice. And yeah, I get that it's Wonder Woman, it's Gal Gadot, doesn't matter. It's really weird that they just seem to be okay with using his body to have dang it, I didn't want to say it, but that's essentially what happened. Yeah, it's essentially yeah, it's a comic book movie, but it's still what's weird is they could have prevented this just by having Steve's body materialize after Diana makes her wish. They didn't necessarily need him to possess another man's body. I mean, if the Dream Stone is able to grant people's wishes, I'm pretty sure they could have just, brought him back. Poof, he's there. Or poof, he shows up somewhere, he wakes up, he's in his own body, but he's just there, and he finds Diana and they reunite. Would have been pretty easy. It wouldn't have taken too much stretch of my imagination or anyone's imagination to just believe that would happen. Also, since it is later revealed that Diana's wish is costing her her powers, it was already a good enough reason why he couldn't stay. So it just doesn't make sense why they would just include that in there. Like, the only way they could have gotten away with that is if they just if they didn't show them in bed together. I mean, I guess it also would have been wrong if they were kissing each other using the man's body. Still not cool. And if they wanted to keep the scene of Steve trying on different 80s outfits, which honestly I did love that, keep that scene too. Don't cut that. They still could have done that just by having them go to the mall. They already went to the mall in the beginning scene. Just go back to the mall, have Steve try on the different outfits. You still get the scene, you still get the laugh, and once again, you don't need to have another man's body being taken advantage of. Someone on Twitter pointed this out, by the way. I don't know which Twitter user, so I can't credit them, but honestly, it makes sense. Now, I'm not sure why the movie decided to involve the Middle East as part of the villain's plot, but I don't think it was necessary, mainly because it didn't seem like it was properly handled. I couldn't really explain it at the time, when I was watching it, but I did feel a little uncomfortable with the inclusion just because I didn't really necessarily get what the movie was trying to say. And there is an article that explains this a little bit more, talking about how it seemed to be portraying a lot of stereotypes in the movie, which is also a shame because in the first movie it did seem to it was able to include diverse characters but not make them feel like caricatures. They felt like real people, and they felt, even though they didn't have a lot of screen time, we were able to sympathize with them and want to know more about them in their scenes. So it's kind of a shame they weren't able to do that more in this movie if they were to include more diverse characters. And there were opportunities. And they kind of do that a little bit with Maxwell Lord's character, because they do reveal, although I don't know if it was that much of a reveal, that he is Latino and he grew up marginalized because of his race, and then eventually he adopted an angelized name, Maxwell Lord, and dyed his hair, became blonde, and started kind of pursuing the American dream. Which, to be honest, I'm not sure if that was also properly handled. Well, I get that why he would turn evil, because basically he was kind of just seemed like it was saying if you chase the American dream, then, or it's kind of almost saying that chasing the American dream is basically greed. And I get, in some ways, I kind of get it, because it kind of does make him more sympathetic. I just don't know if it was properly handled. It doesn't seem to indicate that systematic oppression is a thing and can often be the reason why a person is trying to pull themselves out of oppression, and why they might be chasing after things like money and status, is because by being pushed down so much, they might want to rise above it. It doesn't seem to acknowledge that. And I get that the main message is that you shouldn't take shortcuts and you have to earn things rightly, but there are things in place that kind of prevent people from doing that. So I don't know, while I did like the message at the beginning of the movie, I don't think it was properly conveyed by the end of the movie. I kind of had to think a little bit about it more to kind of tie it together. It kind of felt like it was kind of connected, but not really. While I don't think this movie lived up to the quality of the first movie, I don't think it's complete garbage. There were definitely a lot of problems with it, but I still enjoyed it. I will say, there are some days where I think about taking off my glasses and becoming an evil villain. I think I'm gonna have to get contacts first. That's better. I also really liked a lot of nods to the Wonder Woman mythology. I was also surprised by one in particular. I'm really surprised how they got it in there, but I kind of think they pulled it off. Yeah, does it kind of come out of nowhere? Yes, but honestly, I thought it was kind of cool. Anyway, let me know what you thought about the movie. Did it live up to your expectations, or were you disappointed?